In this video, we're going to talk about doing this tags page. Now, the tags page is going to be a little bit different because there's really two pieces of data that needs to be pulled in for each of these pages. First, we need a list of all of the possible tags, and each tag needs to know how many stores are in that tag. And then second, when we go to a tag page like family friendly, it's going to filter for all of the stores that have that specific tag. We have a little bit of a problem. Let's focus on just this part right now, and then in a future video we're going to look at how do we filter for stores that have that tag. So let's look at this tag bar right now. The problem is, how do we make this sort of aggregation of all of the tags? And if you were to think about this right now, you might say like, okay, well, we query every single store, and then we'll loop over every single store, and we'll loop over every single store's tags, and then just count the instances of that. However, that becomes a little bit slow when you start to get a lot of pieces of content. So if you have 1,000 stores, it doesn't make sense to query 1,000 stores, have that data come back, and then to loop over each and every one of them. As soon as you get into large data, that can become extremely slow to actually have to get the documents back. And you can run into problems with your server running out of actual memory because 10,000 documents, each with 10, 15 fields on them, will start to eat up your memory pretty quickly. So that's actually not what we want to do. And when we have a problem like this, we need to ask ourselves, how can I offload the heavy lifting off of Node.js and onto our database? Because that's what databases do. Databases are good at doing complex queries, complex aggregations. They're able to look at the data and quickly filter it for the specific stuff that it needs. So we don't want to do that data in Node.js specifically. We just want to write some code in Node and then pass it off to MongoDB and tell, hey, MongoDB, you can do this because you're a little bit better at doing this type of thing. So we're going to offload the heavy lifting over to MongoDB with something called an aggregation. And an aggregation is the ability to, I got the docs open right here. An aggregation is the ability to do sort of a complex query where often you'll need to do sort of like multiple steps in a query. You might need to select everything and then filter for those and then modify them or group them together, or group and then filter each of those groups. So if there's like multiple steps in your query, and it's not just as simple as search for stores with a slug, give me stores with these tags, give me the latest top 5 stores. Those are all very simple queries. But when you get into more advanced queries, you need to start looking at aggregation and using all of these different operators that MongoDB will allow you to do. So an aggregation is simply just an array. You see that they have orders array where you can pass it multiple commands where it will first match. In this case, it matches for things that have a status of A. So you've got A, D. So that will match only 3 of the subsetted ones that we initially had. And then you can go ahead and group them together. You can add things up. It's sort of like a reduce function in JavaScript where you can take them from the stage that they were in the raw document format and process them into pretty much any other format that you're looking for. In our case, we're going to take all of the stores and turn it into, and we're going to group it by the actual tags that they have. So the first thing that we should do is go to our tags page, and we got a 404. So let's go into our index.js and set up some routes for our specific tags page. So I'm going to go to the bottom here. These spaces aren't necessary. I just have them for readability often. So I'll say router.get /tags. And when that happens, what we're going to do is to catch errors, and we're going to use the store controller.get stores by tag. And then I actually want to set up another route. So just duplicate that and say /tags/tag. And that is going to be a colon tag. Why? Because when we look at this one, it's going to be /tags/family friendly or Wi-Fi or open late or licensed, whatever it is. So we want to have routes for both of those. You can also do, I think it's a star ? And that will have a regex route saying that this piece right here is totally optional. However, I often prefer just to have 2 routes with the same controller, just so it's really explicit to me that I have tags and tags / the tag name. Good. Then we'll go into our store controller and we'll go to the bottom here. And we'll have exports.get stores by tag. Is that what we called it? Yes, it is. Equals async request response. Open that sucker up and then response.send. It works. Gonna go back here and click on my tags page and we see it works. Good. So now we know that that has all been lined up. Now what we need to do is get a list of all of the stores. So we'll say const stores equals await. And here's where it comes in a little bit weird. We want to say store dot, and now we're not going to say find because we want to get a list of tags. So the way that that works is we can create our own static methods that live on our store model, and then we can name them whatever it is that we could possibly want. So we're going to call it get tags list, and that is what we're going to have be returned to us. Now we want to go back into our store model here, store.js, and scroll all the way down, and we're going to take our schema, say store schema, and we're going to add a method onto it. And the way that you add a method onto the schema is you put it on .statics, and then you make up a method name. And what did we call ours? Get tags list. And that's going to be equal to a function. It's important that we use a proper function here. Why? Because we need to use this inside of the function, and this function is going to be bound to our model. All of the static methods are bound to the model, meaning that we can use all of the this.find and this dot, we're going to use aggregate inside of it. So do not use an arrow function, otherwise we cannot use this inside of it. So proper function there. And from that, we are going to return this dot aggregate, and we're going to open up and close our parentheses on it. Now, aggregate is just a method like find or find by ID or whatever it is that we're looking for, like find one. So aggregate, it will take an array of possible operators of what we're looking for. Now, from that, you can start to use any of the different aggregation operators. And how you find those, you just go to MongoDB aggregate operators. And we'll take a look. Here we go. They're called pipeline operators. The pipeline is this array here. And you can see that there's all these different operators. And then the way that you can tell that they're operators is they always start with a $sign, meaning that it still is an object, but they do something special because they start with a $sign. So you can match things. You can limit. So maybe I want to match things that start with Wes, but limit it to 2. Or maybe I want to skip. I want to match 10 things, but skip the first 10. So give me 11 through 20. Unwind, group, sample, sort, geo-near. We're going to be looking at ones like that. Out, index, faucet, bucket. There's all kinds of different ones here. And whenever you need to do any sort of complex query, you'll find yourself on this page looking for the possible operators that make sense for you. So in our case, we're going to use one called unwind first. Why? Because we're going to be grouping all of our items by the number of tags they have. But before you can group by, you need to unwind your stores so that for every single tag that exists for a store, there's going to be that many stores. Not make a lot of sense, but let's go through it right now. So first thing we want to do is use or you have to pass it an object for each pipeline operator. We'll unwind. And we're going to unwind based on and then in quotes, use $tags. And what that means is by putting a $sign in front of it, you say that this is a field on my document, which I wish to unwind. Now, let's visualize some stuff here because this is getting a little bit hairy. So we'll go into our store controller here. We get our stores, and let's just say res.json stores, and then refresh our tags page. Oh, store.getTagsList is not a function. Let's look at our store.js file. Oh, I forgot to save. How does saving work? There we go. Okay, so what's happening here is that our first bar or our first store was called brew bar, and it actually had a couple different tags. It had one called family friendly and license, right? If we go to this in another page and we go to brew bar, you see that it's family friendly and licensed. So what we need to do when we're trying to count our tags is we need to chalk one up for friendly family and family friendly, and we need to chalk one up for licensed. So by unwinding them, what we do is we get an instance of a store for family friendly, and we get an instance of a store for licensed. So the coffee shop has family friendly, and it also has vegetarian. Butcher and the Vegan has one for Wi-Fi, as well as open late, as well as family friendly. So it's duplicating the content here, and we don't really care all that much, because what we need to do is each store needs to just have one tag per se, and then we're going to now go ahead and group them in our next operator. So do comma here, and we'll do another pipeline operator, which is going to be $group, and we want to group by something. And what do we want to group it by? We want to group it by tags, as well as count them as we're on our way. So you have another object here, which is the ID, which we're grouping it by, is going to be $tags. And we are going to count. We're going to create a new property here called count, which is going to be equal to the sum. And we're just going to add one. Now, this will probably seem a little bit weird, especially if you're coming from JavaScript where you explicitly do everything, and this is much more described. But what we're doing here is that we are going to group everything based on the tag field, and then we're going to create a new field in each of those groups called count. Now, each time that we group one of these items, the count is going to sum itself by one, or maybe that it would be better if that was called like add itself by one, but it's called sum by one. So let's see what that gives us. This is more what we're looking for. So what that now returns is not a list of stores, because we don't care about the stores. We just care about a list of tags, which will give us the ID, which is tags. That's what we grouped it by: open late, Wi-Fi, vegetarian, license, and family friendly. And then we added a new property called count, which is the sum of one, and will tell us how many are in each of them. Finally, what we want to do is sort by most popular. So family friendly has 6, and Wi-Fi has 1. That should be the last. Family friendly should be first. So that's just another thing in our pipeline. We will use the operator sort, and we want to sort by the count property. And you can either do it ascending or descending, which is 1 or -1. So when I write these things, I find myself often on Stack Overflow or looking at little examples of what I'm trying to do, because they can be fairly complicated. But if you just break it down into the different pieces of first unwind it, then group it, then sort that, then you're able to sort of see the different factories of your piping data into one, out of the other, into another. And I guess that's why it's called pipeline, is because you're piping data in and out, in and out, in and out of all of these different operators. So now if I refresh that here, we actually have our list of tags. Good. So we can go back to our controller here. And this should not be called stores. It should be called tags. So const tags equals await sort of tags. Then we're going to render out a tag pug file. So we'll say res.render. We're going to render out the tag file, and we're going to pass along a bunch of data. So we'll say the tags are equal to tags, and you're probably getting sick of me saying this, but you know that you can just pass it like that. Then what other data do we need? We need a title, which is going to be, let's just call it tags for now. We're going to come back and replace that. So that's good. And then we make a new file in our views called tags.pug. Extend layout, block content, give ourselves an inner div inside of that, h2 equals title. Let's just double check that that's actually working. So now if I refresh this, failed to look up view tag in, because I called this tags with an S. I need to rename that to just tag. There we go. Refresh, you see tags. Can we do a quick dump? Pre equals h.dump the tags. There we go. Now we see all of the actual data that we have. So we can just quickly loop over those. UL with a class of tags. We say each t in tags. So I'm just going to call this one short form t. And we'll say li.tags or li.tag. A with a class of tag underscore underscore link. And that is going to link off to /tags / and this is how we are going to grab it. So it's going to link to /open late / vegetarian. So if T is the tag property object, then how do we get the ID? Well, it's T._ID. That's good. And then inside of that, we want to have a span with the class of tag text, tag underscore ID. And then we'll have another one with the tag underscore count, which will be t.count. Good. Family friendly, open late, vegetarian, licensed, and Wi-Fi. Now, if I were to click over to one of them, we can take that a little bit further. So I'll click on open late. There we go. Now we're on the open late page. It would be cool if we could highlight the open late to be active. So in order to do that, we need to pass the data about what page we're on over to our template. We'll head back to our store controller. And up here, we'll say const tag equals request.params.tag. And then we'll pass the data over here, tag, and we'll go back into our file here. And we could put in parentheses here if we make this just h2 title. And then we could do another one, tag, put it in parentheses. And then if we are on open late, vegetarian, licensed, Wi-Fi, and we can even replace the title altogether just with the actual tag property. So now if we click through to each of them, we're in good shape. Then we want to add an active class to this link when we are on the page. So this link right here, we want to add a class. Even though we use a class this way, you can also add class properties like this. And that class is going to be equal to parentheses. And we're going to say if the tag ID, which is going to be the name of the tag, is equal to, triple equals, the actual tag. So if they're the same, which means that if we're on licensed and the current iteration is licensed, then we want to, question mark, this is a ternary operator where you say tag underscore link, only two, dash dash active. Otherwise, we're just going to put nothing. Give that a refresh. And now you see, like, when you are on that page, it will give it a class of tag link active. And then the CSS, which makes it purple, will kick in and actually highlight that specific one. Good. If we just go back to our tags page here, you see that there is actually nothing here. So you could say tag or tags in the title. And then on the tags page, it's going to fall back to the word tags. And if we actually are on a specific tags page, then we can see which one we have. Whew, I feel like that was a lot of me saying the word tags. So let's take a break, go grab a coffee, and I'll meet you back in the next video where we look at how to query for specific stores that have that specific.